Okay. Once, okay, now that we know the kinematic equations that we could use in one-dimensional motion, I'm sure you should also know that the acceleration is constant if these equations are to be valid. Okay, so they're not valid if the acceleration is not constant. Okay, so I hope you guys are okay with that, right? Now, if the acceleration varies, then we don't have any other option but to use calculus to solve these problems. All right. Now, sometimes when we solve, let's say, certain problems in 1D motion, we can actually take the help of graphs relating, let's say, velocity time or acceleration time, and then solve certain problems. Okay, so they're really helpful. So if I start with, let's say, velocity time graph. Okay, so let's plot a velocity time graph here. So on y-axis, I'm having velocity, and on x-axis, I have time t. Okay. Now, if I assume that the velocity is constant, suppose, okay, if the velocity does not change. Okay, as an example, I'll say that a particle is moving along a straight line and the velocity is 10 meter per second. So if I take this, now if I wait for 10 seconds, okay, so I know the displacement for the particle moving along one line, a straight line, will be simply the constant velocity and the time taken. Okay, velocity is not changing. So here we just say, okay, 10 into 10, the displacement will be 100 meters in 10 seconds. But the velocity can vary. Okay, now when the velocity varies as time progresses ahead, the variation can be in any form. Okay, so the simplest to be in the straight line. So if I take, let's say, if the velocity is not constant, but it is varying, but it's varying at a constant rate, that would be like having a constant acceleration. So let's say if I take this scenario, so let's say it's varying something like this. Okay, so I'm assuming that the initial velocity is 0. Okay, so velocity time graph. So let's say the acceleration, as an example, it is 2 meter per second square. And then if I wait for, let's say, 10 seconds, the displacement this time is obtained by using half a t square. Okay, so half a, let's say, delta t whole square. Now, if you think about it, this is like half into time taken and then into a into delta t. So a into delta t is the velocity that it will attain. Okay, so if I look at that a into delta t, so in 10 seconds, the velocity attained by the particle will be 20 meter per second. So we are basically trying to get here the area under the graph. Okay, so this is 10 and this is 20. So we are still getting 100 meters. So this velocity, the one which we are seeing in the above graph, this works as the average velocity. Okay, so a simple average. So if I take 0 and then 20, if I take the average of the initial and final velocities, I'm getting this 10. So in either case, if I'm trying to look at the displacement, okay, so I can say that the displacement is area under velocity time graph. Okay, so area under velocity time graph. Okay, so this is something that you should keep in mind. Now, when we try to find area, it is like evaluating the integral of a function which is based on time. Okay, so when we try to take area, okay, so let's say if I try to keep it slightly general. Okay, so let's take a new page. Okay, so let's say now I say that my velocity is not a straight line. Okay, if the velocity is varying, something like this. Okay, and I'm interested in a time interval. So let's say I'm starting from an initial time and then trying to go to some other time. Okay, so t final. Now the velocity is given as a function of time. Now if I want this area, okay, so this area is the displacement of the particle moving along a straight path. So here we are assuming that the particle is moving along a straight path. So maybe this is some x-axis and the particle is just moving along this path. Okay. Now the area is displacement. And we know displacement is a vector quantity. Okay. Because displacement is a vector quantity, sometimes my function could be, the curve could be like maybe some part of it is above horizontal line, some part of it may be below horizontal line. Okay, so I might have something like this as well. So velocity time. So maybe my graph is something like this. So my initial time is this, and then my final time is this. So in this case, the area which is above the horizontal line, I must take it as positive. And the area which is below the horizontal line, I should take it as negative. Okay, so what this really means is, let's say if this curve is intersecting the time axis at some point, let's call that as t star. Now from t initial time to t star, the particle is moving in one direction. Okay, so after that, the particle has changed its direction. The velocity has become negative. If the velocity becomes negative, the vector has changed its direction. Okay, so that means if the particle was moving in a particular direction, so let's say towards east, the moment velocity becomes zero and then changes direction, then it will start moving towards west. So it is trying to go back to the original position. So that is why if you see a velocity time graph, okay, so above the horizontal line area, you should take it as positive. Below the horizontal line area, you should take it to be negative. Is it clear? And at any point, okay, so at any instant, if you're trying to get the slope of the velocity time graph, that would give you the acceleration. Okay, so if I take slope of the velocity time graph, so slope of velocity time graph, so this is equal to acceleration. So if the slope is changing continuously, that means the acceleration is changing continuously. So at certain point, let's say somewhere here, I don't know what this time is. If I take a tangent to that curve, okay, the slope of that tangent will be the acceleration at that moment in time. Okay, so if the velocity time graph is a straight line, then the slope is not changing. So the acceleration is constant. Okay. So are you guys okay with the velocity time graph? Two important things. One, if you are taking the slope of the velocity time graph, you're going to get the acceleration. Okay. So second point, if you're taking the area under the velocity time graph, okay, you're going to get the displacement. But when you get the displacement, you have to be careful. If you're looking at the area above time axis, the displacement is taken as positive. If you're taking below, it is taken as negative. Are you guys with me so far? Okay. Now, in the assignment problems that I gave, I think there are one or two problems which we could have solved using velocity time graph. Okay. So let's say, I think the second problem, if you really look at the second problem, this can be solved using velocity time graph. The train stops at 2 stations. Okay, so if it stops at 2 stations, obviously it's going to start from rest. So let's say at t equal to 0, and then it is going to stop somewhere here. So this point corresponds to station P, and then this point corresponds to station Q. And it accelerates uniformly at 2 meter per second square for 20 seconds. So let's say it accelerates uniformly till here, suppose. Okay, so this is a straight line. Take it as a straight line. Now the slope of this line is 2 meter per second square. Now if it accelerates for 20 seconds, so the time...
The slope is looking like 1 meter per second.
That's okay. I think when we draw, we don't try to like... I think that is okay, beta. I think, yeah, it looks tan 45. We don't have to be very strict about it. So let's say I'll try to change it. Okay. I know what you're saying is right. Okay. So it will be slightly something like this, let's say. Okay. That should be okay. Okay. So now this, I'm going to take it as this time is 20 seconds. Okay. Now the slope is 2 meter per second square. Now, if I read out the velocity here, okay, so in 20 seconds, every second, if the acceleration is 2 meter per second square, every second the velocity is increasing by 2 meter per second. So in 20 seconds, the velocity will increase by 40 meter per second. So that means the velocity right here would be 40. And then the problem says that it continues at that constant speed. Okay, so whatever 40 meters per second it acquires, it continues with that speed till some time. We don't know. Okay, so we are asked to find this time. Okay, and then it quickly drops. Okay, again, Sidhu, I think we don't have to be very strict about the line. Okay, it drops at 1 meter per second square.
It is actually looking like 1 meter.
Huh?
Minus 1 meter per second.
Yeah, minus 1 meter per second. I'm writing only the magnitude. Okay.
Huh?
I'm writing the magnitude. Okay, it's negative. So now, if you were accelerating at 2 meter per second square, and then you attain 40 meter per second in 20 seconds. Now, if you are decelerating at a lower rate, 1 meter per second square, how long should it take to reach zero speed? What should be this time?
40.
It should be 40. Abhiram, are you okay? Because your decelerating rate is half. So the time that you should take, the particle should take to go back to zero will be twice. Abhiram, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
Abhiram, are you okay? The time for deceleration will be twice the time for acceleration?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so this would be 40 seconds.
Yep.
Now, how would we read the displacement that is given? The distance between the stations is 3 kilometers. The triangles area, the total area is 300.
Yeah. 300 or?
Sorry, 3000.
Yeah.
So the total area is 3000 meters. Now, if I take the area of the first triangle, if I use half base into height, I'll get the area of the first triangle, which is 20 into 40. Now the rectangle area would be base into height. Base is time, and then height is 40, and then plus the last triangle is half. Base is 40, and height is 40. So from here we get
We
3000.
will just cancel 40 off from everything.
Yes, we can do that. So this is how much? 400. Yeah, I think 40 we can cancel. Yeah, we can do that. So from everywhere, if I cancel 40, what do I get? I think the left hand side will be 75.
Yeah.
And 10 plus 20. Okay, plus t. So t comes out to be 45 seconds. But TK, this is algebra. We can do whatever way we want. Okay, so are you guys okay so far?
Yes.
Yeah. Think about it again.
Okay.
Till 30, so this is 30 meter per second. So I'll say the velocity is in meter per second and the time is in seconds. It is then brought to rest again by constant retardation. Now, this is actually not practical, but let's say we are able to do that. Okay, so immediately you're trying to switch gears and then retard.
Okay.
So you're brought to 0. Okay, now if the particle is then at 120 meters from the starting point, fine. Okay, so I know the height. So if I take the area under the graph,
height and area. So
very
this.
good. So 120 is half, base is t, and then into 30. So I think the time comes out to be how much? 80 seconds? Sorry, 8 seconds?
8.
Yeah, 8 seconds.
So what Siddharth is saying is true. Okay, so the information that is given, the slope of the line for the second part is just in exams they try to give additional information to waste your time. It's not really necessary.
Oh, so
I actually wasted my time at the start.
Yes.
Then I realized.
Oh, so we don't need that whole deceleration. All
Not
that
required.
is not required.
Not required.
Oh, okay.
You could use it, but without that also you will get the answer. See, if you actually plot velocity time graph, it's much easier.
Yeah.
I did that.
You did that? Good. So velocity time graph would actually give you the answer almost mentally.
Okay, so it will always be 8, regardless of
how it decelerates, provided the displacement is still 120.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the displacement has to be 120.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, now that I think before I touch upon acceleration time graph, what I want to do is I want to challenge you guys. Okay. So are you able to see this?
I can see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'll give you some time to solve this problem. Yes. These are all vectors. Are you guys with me?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you think? Shall I wait for that problem or shall I discuss?
For the other problem?
Yeah, rocket one.
Yeah. Yes.
Discuss? Okay. So let's talk about it. So in this rocket problem, in the rocket problem, because it is a gravity-free space, does it really matter how I place the chamber? Suppose I place the chamber like this. This is okay vertically.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so now this vertical direction, I'll say that the rocket is moving in this direction. So which is 2 meter per second square. It's projected downwards with 2 meter per second. And let's say another ball B is projected upwards with 3 meter per second. Okay, now suppose you are an astronaut stuck in this rocket chamber for very long.
It
Okay.
is 0.2 and 0.3.
Oh, sorry. 0.2 and 0.3. Yeah. I forgot. So suppose guys, if you are an astronaut stuck in this rocket for very long. Okay, so suppose you are standing here.
Yes.
So let's say you're holding onto this and then you're standing in that rocket chamber. Now, can I say that you will actually notice an artificial acceleration due to gravity, or it's real actually? So you will notice that anything dropped in this rocket will have an acceleration of 2 meter per second square in the downward direction. Do you guys agree to this? Because the rocket itself is moving up with acceleration 2 meter per second square. Anything dropped, okay, is kind of going to have an acceleration of 2 meter per second square relative to the rocket. I want to make sure that you understand this idea.
Now can we try?
You want to try? Okay. So yeah, try. You guys okay with the idea that I can treat this chamber as some artificial space where the acceleration due to gravity, let's say if I call it as gravity, the acceleration experienced by any freely falling object is 2 meter per second square in the downward direction. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I give you some time. Okay, so the hint for this problem is try to find the maximum height. Let's say if I orient the rocket like this, I can take vertical direction as some sort of height. Okay, so inside the rocket, find the maximum height attained by the particle B, and then compare it with the length of the chamber. Okay, so get the maximum height and then compare it with the length of the chamber, you will get an idea. Okay, so okay. But, Aviram, what did you notice when you looked at the maximum height attained by B?
A maximum height attained by B.
Yeah.
It will return to the ground.
It will return to the ground if I take that floor as the ground. Yeah.
Yes, then will any collisions happen?
Okay, the collisions will happen, but nothing is said about the collisions.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's. I think Aviram, your answer is very close. I think maybe could be that could be the answer. Let's verify this. Okay. Now,
Okay.
if I'm worried about consider only B, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so consider only B with respect to rocket.
Yeah.
Okay, so consider B with respect to rocket. Now, if I use, let's say the kinematic equation, I'll take upward direction as positive. Okay, so I'll take upward direction as positive, and then if I use v square minus initial velocity square is equal to 2a into displacement, let's say. So delta x is in the upward direction, let's say. Now at maximum height, this will be 0 minus 0.3 whole square is equal to 2. Acceleration is in the downward direction, so I'll take it as negative, minus 2 into delta x.
Yes.
Now the displacement in the upward direction inside the rocket is 0.09 by 4. Okay, so now if I get this, how much is this? 0.02, I think 225, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this is just 2.25 centimeters. Now compare it with the length of the rocket chamber. So length of the rocket chamber is 400 centimeters. So
Yes.
400 centimeters, and then if I compare it with 2.25 centimeters, that's way smaller.
Yeah.
Now the problem, now let's say how long does it take for it to hit the ground again? So let's evaluate that. So if I use the time of flight, I think we know it is 2 times V naught by G. So I'm using G as 2. Okay, in this case, artificial G. So 2 into 0.3 by 2. So that takes 0.3 seconds.
Yes.
Now, in that time, A is still falling down. Okay, A is
Yeah.
still falling down. Now, I think A
Yes.
takes much more than 0.3 seconds to come to the other side. Okay, now if it is going to take much more time than that, what is going to happen here? The information about what type of collision is taking place with that wall, for now, once we change the orientation, that becomes the floor. Okay, we don't know. Now, do you think it is going to come up with the same speed, 0.3 meter per second? We never know. Okay,
We
so
don't know.
we
It
don't know.
may
Okay,
be a brick.
no information is given. But if you think about it, even if it comes with 0.3 meter per second, the 2.25 centimeters is always near the floor, right?
Yeah.
It's very close. So can I say A is going to meet B only at the floor, almost at the floor?
Yes.
So that means the answer is just looking at the time taken by A to go to the other side. So
Do we
suppose,
have to approximate things?
yes, you'll have to approximate things. So here, suppose if I take a situation like, okay, if I consider a realistic situation, if it is going to hit that wall, if it bounces again with a lesser speed, in reality, that's what happens, right? If a ball hits ground, it is not going to come back with the same speed it is going to hit the ground. It's going to come back with a lesser speed. So that means as A goes to the other side, B is just hitting that wall and then staying close to that wall. Do you guys understand?
And there might be another scenario. B is very heavy and the uh, rocket is very light. And then the rocket will move.
Yeah, that that could happen, but how likely that scenario would be true? It will be very tough. Now, in that case, then we'll have to get into a whole lot of scenarios. Now, whoever is going to give that velocity. Okay, guys, again, we will not get into that type of questions right now. Okay. I think once we study something called center of mass, we will appreciate more issues like that. But right now, can I say that the problem can be reduced to finding the time taken by A to go to the other side? Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Okay, now then which
Yeah.
equation I will use? I'll just use this delta x
Is equal to half
is
into.
equal to V naught t plus half a t square.
Yeah.
Okay, now since I have taken upward direction as positive, the displacement is minus 4. The initial velocity is minus 0.2 t plus half, the acceleration is minus 2 and t square. Now this is a quadratic equation that I think it is slightly, we need to use the formula to solve this. So I have t square plus 0.2 t minus 4 equal to 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Wait,
let me,
so why are we not adding the the velocity, the 0.3 to the other side? So like
no,
the final equation that I got was t squared plus 0.5 t minus 4. So
no. Abhiram, do you understand what I said a little while ago?
oh
Since
yeah, the
since B
rocket
is
is
stuck there, I don't have to
yeah.
worry about B because A is
Oh,
almost going to meet at the other side of the chamber, right?
Oh,
So the problem actually gets converted into something like this. Okay, how long
okay.
does A take to go to the other side? So that is why we don't have to worry. Once we get that situation, once we get that perspective, we don't have to worry about B at all.
And another
Oh,
scenario, what if the rocket had a hole?
Yeah, guys, we can get into many interesting things. Again, let us
And
not go
that is
there.
possible, rocket having a hole.
Yeah. I think, yeah. But I think if you think about it, no. We have to again get into lot many other issues. Okay, rocket engineering. That is why people don't simply say that it is not rocket science. You might have heard, right? It is not rocket science. That phrase tells that rocket science is very difficult. Because rocket science involves many engineering. Okay, now when there is a
yeah.
hole, you'll have to worry about outside deep space vacuum, and then inside pressure. It can be chaotic. Okay, let's not go there. I mean, let us stick to basic physics right now.
Okay.
So here, I think, let's say if I solve this quadratic, what do I get? I think, I'm hoping you guys know that formula, right? Minus b
Yeah.
plus or minus
Quadratic.
square root of b square minus 4ac. B square will be 0.04 minus 4ac is like 16.04 by 2 plus or minus. I think the minus doesn't make sense. So what do we get roughly? I think I'll get
You get
4 minus
1.9.
0.2 by 2. So it will be like
Yes.
3.8 by 2. So
Yeah,
roughly
you
we
get
will get
roughly
1.9 seconds
1.9.
as the answer.
Okay.
So your
Yeah.
answer is very close, but not quite.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so
Are you guys
since
okay?
the rock, yeah, so the rocket is moving faster than B, so B will be like stuck to the floor of that
Yes,
rocket, right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So we don't have to worry about B at all in this case.
So
Okay.
we're taking B as like a ball of clay.
Yes, kind of.
Yeah.
So I think, see, they in physics problems they try to test our observation also. It's not just we have some equations and then can we plug in and then get answers. No, it's not always that. Okay, this is actually a good problem. Okay, so the scenario is very nice. Okay, so let's okay.
Uh,
So I have acceleration on y-axis and time on x-axis. Guys, if I, let's say, pretend that this acceleration is a function of time. And again, I'm taking, let's say, 2 timestamps. So let's say that's the time interval. At some time t, if I try to get this slope,
In physics, do we use the terminology timestamp?
yeah, sometimes. At a moment, you can say, at a moment, it will be like timestamp. I do sometimes. Okay, now here, the area under velocity time graph was giving us displacement, right? So what do you think area under acceleration time graph gives? What should you get it? Area under acceleration time graph.
Change in velocity.
Very
yeah.
good. Change in velocity. Nice. Because area under velocity time graph was giving us change in position, which is displacement. So area under acceleration time graph should give change in velocity. That change is very, very important.
Okay.
And again, if the area is above time axis, you're going to take that change as positive. And the area below time axis, you're going to take it as negative. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what do you think the slope of acceleration time graph tell us?
The slope of acceleration time
The
graph.
rate of change of acceleration.
Yeah, rate of change of acceleration. It has a name. We don't have to worry about it, but it's a very funny name. I think you use it to curse people. Okay, the rate of change of acceleration is this.
Jet. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so don't use it. Okay, you'll get into trouble. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll give you a problem and then let's see how you guys do it. Okay. See, if you look at it, what did we say? The area under acceleration time graph gives us change in velocity, right? Suppose I'm only paying attention till the 11th second. Abhiram, are you okay?
Yeah.
So if I'm only
Yeah.
paying attention till 11th second, then the change in velocity is given by this area.
Yes.
This area. Now, what is that area? Area of a triangle, which is like half base into height, and that is 55 meter per second. Now, the speed of the particle at t equal to 11 would be 55 meter per second.
Yeah.
Aviram, are you okay so far? Do you understand this?
Yes.
After that, what is happening? Acceleration is negative. So that means the change in velocity would be negative after that. So the speed will go down further. Okay, so after 11 seconds, the speed of the particle will go down.
Wait, just a second.
Yeah.
This max velocity, no?
Max speed.
Like if it goes in the other direction.
Oh, yeah. I think they should say maximum velocity only, not maximum speed. I wrote it as maximum speed here. But the problem says maximum speed only, but I think the graph was only till 11. Oh, okay, my mistake. The graph was shown only till 11. Suppose if I say that, okay, I think my mistake. If I say that it ends here at maybe 15 seconds or so, then I can say that maximum speed is 55 meter per second. The problem is I have shown by mistake, I have drawn the graph as never ending. So what Sidhu is saying is also right. If I'm only looking at maximum speed, then it can pick up speed in the opposite direction, right?
Yes.
So unless I end, suppose if I say that I am ending at like
So
15
you
seconds.
just calculated the area under the.
So the 55 meter per second will be correct only if I'm ending at some time. Okay, by then the velocity, the magnitude of velocity will not go beyond 55.
Okay.
Okay, but if I show it as never ending, then what he's saying is actually correct, because in the reverse direction, the speed might go beyond 55.
Yes.
Are you guys okay?
Yep.
Okay, so, okay, the graph shows as if it is cutting off, but you have to be very careful. Okay, good point. Okay, now try this problem. This is again a JE problem, which I picked it up online. It is 2011 problem. So try this.
The train is moving along.
Doesn't matter, no.
Okay, so here, let's get the diagram here first. So let's say a train is moving along a straight line. The acceleration is given. So let's say this is a train. It is moving, let's say, to the right with an acceleration a meter per second square. Now a boy standing in the car, again, the height of the boy we can ignore. Let's say this is the level from where he is throwing. Okay. Now a ball is projected forward with the speed at an angle of 60 degrees with the horizontal. So the initial velocity vector is 10 in this direction, 10 meter per second, 60 degrees with the horizontal. Now what we can do first is break this into two components. Okay. So if I get the vertical component initial velocity, that would be uy, suppose initial velocity is uy, will be 10 sine 60. So how much is 10
Yeah.
sine 60? So that is 5 root 3. The upward velocity is 5 root 3. And the horizontal velocity, let's say I'll call that as ux. That is 10 cos 60, which is 5 meter per second. Now the problem is saying the boy has to move forward a certain distance till he catches the ball again. Okay, so somewhere here he catches. He has to move 1.15 meters ahead. Now, vertically, if you think about vertically, what is happening? Vertically, it is like it starts off with 5 root 3 meter per second and then goes to maximum height and then comes back. Okay. Aviram, can I say that time depends on the vertical speed?
Yes.
Okay, so time depends only on the vertical speed. Sidhu, are you okay with this idea? The time of flight just depends on the vertical velocity.
Yes.
It does not depend on what is happening horizontally. So can I say the time of flight is simply 2 times uy by g? Is it okay? Time to
Yeah.
go up is velocity by acceleration. So if I get this, so I'll get 2, vertical velocity is 5 root 3 by g 10. So that means the time of flight is root 3 seconds. Now the displacement is given, but this displacement of 1.15 meters is with respect to the train. Now, if you remember that rocket problem, if there is an observer inside the car, the ball will have an acceleration in the opposite direction. See, as the ball moves horizontally, it will have an acceleration A in the opposite direction. Is it okay? Abhiram, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Sidhu, are you okay with this
Yeah,
idea?
yeah.
That with respect to the train, there is an acceleration in the opposite direction. So now horizontally, I can use that equation. So horizontally, what will I do? Horizontally, I can use delta x. The displacement is initial velocity in the horizontal direction plus time plus half at square. I can use this. Now, what is the displacement that I'm after? That is 1.15. Okay,
Yep.
equal to, what is the initial velocity? I'm taking right side as positive. So initial velocity is horizontally, it is 5. So how
Yeah.
long was this moving? Root 3 plus half. A is negative, so I'll just put minus a, and then t square is root 3 whole square.
Okay.
Okay, are you guys okay with so far?
Yeah.
Then I think 5 root 3 is like 1.732 into 5. How much is that around? If I multiply that, I think it will be 10, 16, 20, 35, 36. I think 8.66. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think here we have 3a by 2 will be 8.66 minus 1.15. So that would be 7.51.
Yeah.
So maybe I can just take 7.5. So A would be roughly how much? So this is like 2.5. So I think A roughly would be 5 meter per second square. Are you guys okay so far?
This we can. Okay.
Yeah, you understand. I think we can calculate that roughly. Aviram, are you okay with this question?
Yes. Yes.
The only thing that was required was the projectile motion. Since you guys are like slightly familiar with the projectile motion, I think we are okay with this problem. But yeah, once we start getting into 2D kinematics, trust me, we will have a host of interesting problems to solve.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let's discuss one interesting question on 1D motion. Okay. Now this question I took it from a very nice book. Okay. I learned a lot of physics from solving problems from this book. I really like this. Okay. Abhiram, you can get, I think this is available online in, let's say, public domain at this site, archive.org. You can get this book from there. Okay. So this is a
Okay.
problem from that book. So I'll give you guys some time to solve this problem. Distance covered by the bolt.
Till it hits the floor, won't the bolt always cover 2.7 meters?
That's something I'll leave it to you. But
Oh.
2.7 meters is not the answer.
Okay.
So you're free to use calculator, Python programming, whatever. Okay. Guys, try to think about the situation.
Just
What
a
is
second.
going on here? Okay. So it's again interesting problem. Okay, guys. So this is the deal. Okay. If you guys can solve this problem, that means your 1D motion understanding is good. Okay, so we can, like, tomorrow we can start projectile motion or kinematics in 2D plane. So take this as homework.
Okay.
Is it okay?